Okay. So welcome, Kelly, and thank you for doing this. And the floor is all yours. This is
Okay. I was gonna say, I think the only one I know is Adrian. I have been homeschooling off and on since the early 2000s. I have a 30-year-old, a 20-year-old, and one that will be 18 in about 2 weeks. No, 5 weeks. So we have used a variety of curriculums, but one that's been very versatile for us has been the Alpha Omega, which the one part is Monarch, which I'm going to show you today. But we have used their life packs, which are workbooks. It's the same kind of material that I'm going to show you, except for everything is contained in a workbook, and that worked really well when we had to travel. There was a time when the two younger ones were, well, I was pregnant with Tim and Kiana was 2. So then we were spending 4 days in Anchorage and out here for 3, and 4 days in and out here for 3. So for homeschooling Sabrina, it was easy to just grab whichever workbook she happened to be in for that subject, and that's all we had to take. There was no textbooks, everything was contained within the workbook. It was real short lessons, and then you answer the questions or you had your tests in there. But I know if you go to Christian Book Distributor, you can see like sample pages. And then the counterpart to the Monarch is going to be Switched on Schoolhouse. And that is a thumb drive program, whereas Monarch is the online. They're exactly the same program. So what I'm going to show you would be the same thing for Switched on Schoolhouse, except for it comes on a thumb drive that you put into your computer. You do not have to have the internet. Let me. So this
make
is
the screen bigger, Kelly, if you want. Do you want me to expand it?
it's me getting used to your mouse.
I just go here. Up there in that corner, and then you see that little arrow. Yeah, and you can just
Drag it over. I
Mhm.
was gonna say, I think it's pretty easy.
Okay.
So when I log in, this is what I get to choose. And this basically, you can choose your background. When you're first setting up, it's gonna make me log back in. Just a second. We had it open too long. And with this program, the parent gets,
They want a chair.
the parents get their own login to deal with everything, and then the kids get their own. So each child would have their own login, their own calendar, their own set of lessons. If you have 2 kids that you're doing the same curriculum for, you do not have to give them the same lessons. You can customize it to whichever child you're dealing with. When I come in, the first thing I do is when I do my setup over here, you put in what your calendar is, what your school year is. So I set that up. I can go in and pick, like if I come back to last week. Is it gonna help me go back? Nope, it's gonna take me back to January. Come on. There it goes. So I put spring break in there for him. So he did not have to worry about doing any of his classes. I can tailor it to his Trek schedule. So I put the Trek schedule in there when he's got Treks. It'll automatically readjust all of his classes so that he's still done within whatever date I say school's over. So like for him being a senior, everything has to be done by the May 12th. I think I actually did it before then. He's only got one class really that he's still finishing on, and that's his econ. And he'll be done probably this week. And then he won't have anything left to do because he can go through it so fast. Then, and so this is basically what he'll see is this. So like today, if we go, it shows, you know, he, on his government econ, it's selecting stocks. And then I can see what lesson he's actually doing. So this is kind of an overview of what a lesson would look like. He's got so much that he would actually be reading, and then sometimes there's videos, there's different vocabulary things that it does. There's an arcade game that he can practice the vocabulary. So it's kind of a very interactive. And then it's pretty much an instant grading and reporting system. It'll let him know at the end of it whether he got it right. You can set how many times they can attempt a program or a project. There's also, I'll show you here in a little bit, where they have a system like if they really bombed something, you can have it reassigned and have them do the lesson again. You can skip it and choose to do it a different way. There's alternative tests. So if they took a main test and they didn't get it, you can give them the alternative test. So it's not just the same test, then they don't know why they bombed something. There's been several that Tim will come to me, goes, I tried every answer I could think of. I exhausted my tries. I still don't know what I did wrong. And then I would have to go look at it and say, oh, well, they were looking for this. And he'd be like, okay. So then if I go over here to his assigned work, like I said, you can do it depending on the student. So he's my only one. He's down here in the banking part of this. So these are all ones that he's already done. So he's getting ready to where he's going to have this quiz, and then he'll have a test on the banking system. And these are separate reports that you can or can't, you know, right now I have them unassigned because I don't necessarily need him writing the report. I have him concentrating on scholarship stuff for his writing and stuff. Or you can do, you know, if your child is more into projects, you can have them do projects instead of some of the reports.
What are some of the projects?
Like this one. What do they have on this one? That, you know, I don't even know if it's going to tell us what the special project is. Oh, it's something I can choose on this one. They're not actually dictating what type of project. You get to choose your own. So if because it's banking, if you wanted them to research, like maybe depending on interest rates, you know, and you want them to, you know, what's better, a savings account, a CD, a money market, because he was just learning some of the investment stuff. So you could choose that type of a project. I know there's been others, probably not in his government and econ, where they had him do skit type stuff, you know, create. And that might have been in part of his English when he was dealing with poetry and Macbeth and some of that kind of stuff, where, you know, do your own skit or, you know, creative stories or something. Trying to think of some of the earlier ones that he would have had. Because we've used this program off and on for a few different years. There was one year we did the whole subject line, to where it was his English, his math, well, not math, because he's always stuck with Alex math. The history, the science, he would have had the Bible part of it. To where, you know, they set up everything and they had it all, it was all in there. And then when it comes to, and you can take and like open them up. Like here was a report on buying a car. I skipped that one because he's already bought several cars, fixed one up, sold it, bought a different car. So I figured he's already gotten enough knowledge on that one that he didn't have to do that one.
So Kelly, sorry,
So you have to do this, you do this at the beginning of the school year, where you go through each one in each subject and you pick and choose, or?
You can do it at any time.
Okay,
So like on some of his earlier ones, they probably were in here and I did not.
you just let them go through all of it?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
And sometimes he will skip over it if I haven't. See, I think by now I probably went in and skipped them because it kept telling him that he was behind on something.
Okay,
Because they were there, but you can change them at any time. And the beauty of it is if you go to the calendar, like you can reschedule all courses
Mhm.
and it'll readjust everything for whatever reason. So if for some reason Wednesday he needed to be gone,
Yeah.
I could go in and hit reschedule from that point for that day not being there, and it'll just move everything
Oh,
and
that's-
readjust how much he has to do to be done by his end date.
Oh.
So, and again, I know people that have done it because they take like the whole month of December off. They don't follow the actual school calendar. I always follow the school calendar because either we had Kiana still in school and him homeschooled, or he's doing treks. So it made it easier for me to go with the school than, the only thing I don't always do is, oh, it's an in-service day, because that doesn't affect us. But then you have your grading tasks, and it'll tell you what you have for grading tasks. And when you come in, it'll usually put you on whatever the item is that needs to be graded. And so it tells you what are 3 services provided by an ATM. And it'll tell you some of the items that you're looking for as far as what the answer should be. Over here, it lets you decide what your scoring is going to be. And what I usually do is, like, this one's going to be 3 things that he needs to list. So it would be a 3 out of 3 for 100%. So if he gets something, say there's supposed to be 5 of them, he got 3. And 4 was maybe, so sometimes I'll go a 3.5 out of 5 instead of just a 3 because he got part of it right, and then go talk to him. But then it'll show you what his answer is. And then I just have to put in what it is going to be, grade it. If I want him to rework it, I can click here. If you want to clear all his attempts and reassign it, like if it was something that, no, he should really understand this, you can reassign that section. You can skip it. If it's something that, okay, they basically got it, but for whatever reason, the way the question was worded, they just couldn't get it, you can skip it and it won't count against them in their grading. So for those that are sports or a GPA, sometimes that's helpful. You can print the problems out for them to review, and you can print blank problems and have them rework it that way instead of doing it on the computer. Sometimes kids just don't do well with the test on the computer. So in that instance, you could just print it out yourself and then enter it in. I go back up here. There are reporting that you can do. So this is where I have my school year set up. I've went in and done, you can do letter grades, you can do percentages. I do both. You can do report card printouts. You can do just a grade report, the daily work. You can do custom, like if I'm doing for the 9 weeks, I put in from the school calendar, what my dates are for that 9 weeks, and I can get what his grades are to submit his grades on the Bright Links or Brightways, is how I end up doing that. In the setup, you can choose if you allow them to skip a problem, if you want them to have access to the answer key, which I don't do, how many maximum problem attempts they get, true or false, how many times you want them to do it. I leave it at 1 because if you get it wrong, you know what the answer is. So, or if you want unlimited, you can pick which Bible translation because it will have links to, you know, the Bible parts in there. Like I said, you can do your school year. You have the option of how your quiz tests are done. You know, whether it's open book, open page, if you allow them to skip the problems or not. You can customize what your grade level percentages are for what it equals, as far as your A's or whatever. You can have your notifications of when it will notify me if he's past due on something below a threshold. And this, I mean, we've been really happy with the curriculum because one, he does well on his own. Online classes don't bother him. I don't have to worry about him being on a live class. We've used it from junior high at different times all the way up through high school. We've went back and forth to this one. They do have it starting in elementary. I think 3rd grade is the earliest grade that they have their stuff going on all 3 of the programs, whether it's the Life Packs, the Switched On Schoolhouse, or the Monarch. So, and then, you know, you have your student set up where you can change what kind of stuff you have for them. And then you can change what kind of settings per class schedule. Like right now, he's only got the 2 classes in there. He's got his last English class and his government econ. And then on their website, so it lists the Monarch, and like I said, that's the online, it's the grades 3 through 12. The Life Pack is pretty much the same thing, except for it's the little booklets, and usually there's about 10 booklets for the year per subject. And then they have the Horizons curriculum, which I used their math when they were littler. I don't know anything about their other stuff. But the one that we've usually done is this one, which is what that one was. So I don't know if anybody has questions for me on any of it or.
So is, when you would look it up online, would it be under Monarch? Is what you would look it up under, or Alpha Omega?
Either way.
Either way, okay.
Yeah. So, and this one, because of it being the online, I went directly through Alpha Omega, but a lot of times you can go through Christian book distributors and they'll either have sales on it or they have sometimes the discounts that you could do.
So under Monarch, you did, for Tim, you did all the subjects, high school subjects except math with
Yes.
this program?
Mhm.
Okay.
And I can't remember which year that was. I know it was not his 8th grade year. We piecemealed that one together because he started his high school classes in 8th grade. He took his aviation class that year. He did a physical science. He did his algebra class that year. So he had 3 of his high school credits in 8th grade, which if you have someone that is wanting to get through a certain level of math, that is a great thing to do. Tim's goal was to have calculus done this year. And the only reason he stopped short is Alex does not offer calculus. He finished his pre-calculus by just shortly into the 2nd semester and was going to go through calculus too, but Alex doesn't offer it and he doesn't want to do a different math program. So he chose to stop his math at the pre-calc level. But he enjoyed being able to have that higher level of math and science. He was able to do physics last year instead of having it be a senior year thing because he started in that 8th grade level. So
With Monarch, right?
those we didn't use Monarch then.
Okay.
Because that was the year that he wanted to pick and choose.
Oh, okay.
And with it being the 8th grade, that's one thing. You're better off if you're going to do Monarch doing the full year of what they set at that grade level than trying to piece it together. Until you get up into like the higher ones where you can just do, okay, we're just doing this English and, you know, the government econ. I know they do have the health, which, you know, Alaska has to have your Alaska history and your health. I know they have both of those. We did not use those, but they do have them. Actually, we might have used the health, now that I think about it, because that was an easy one to do just that module of.
Is the health taught from a biblical worldview?
Yes. And I think that's part of the reason we chose it that way.
And you
It's for
got
theirs.
UL funds for this.
Yes,
Oh, I should know that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the.
Yeah, I think it's because as long as it has a non, you know, some components, some subjects being non-religious or
Yes.
non-Christian, then that's been covered, that it just.
and it's
cannot-
not overly, you know, like this is the only way to look at it. It will have, other than the Bible part of it, they do have a full Bible module that you can do. That is true, just Bible study stuff. That is the one I think that we couldn't have paid for. But the history, the English, they'll have some reference to it in there, but that's not what they're teaching. So we've been able to use it that way and get it funded, so. And then up here, like they have. Is it gonna open? There it goes. So it'll show. Like all your core subjects. And then like if you choose. Oops, go back over. You know, it'll give you what kind of stuff they have for the electives, you know, the probability and statistics, if you wanted to do that, music appreciation, ACT, test prep. You know, I mean, they do have a lot of electives that, you know, business technology. I mean, there's 122 courses that they'll list that you could piece, you know, something here or there. And they're usually pretty good when you click on, they usually give you a pretty good description of what it is. Like for this course, I can either do, you know, $9.95 a month, or I can do $49.95 for the year. And usually I just chose to do the whole year than the month. Unless I was doing a big, you know, the whole package, and then sometimes it's easier.
Is that a calendar year or a school year?
I believe it's the school year. But yeah, I've been pretty happy with the way that they present their stuff. It's been easy for him to follow. There's not a lot that I have to do other than the initial setup of the school year and the grading stuff. And even I've been known to get behind on the grading, and he'll say, "Hey, Mom, you got to grade stuff." You know, so, but I mean, once you get in there, it's pretty simple and easy. But he likes the fact that, you know, it's all laid out for him. He can, when he logs in, it shows him his calendar. He knows what he's looking at for the week. I love how easy it is to reschedule, you know, or to tailor it to, okay, we're going to have this vacation. We know we're not doing school these days because of traveling, you know, so here's this. Or like I said, the trek schedule, that's been the biggest one for me, is because I could tailor it to his school classes and not know, okay, well, you're in class all these days, we're going to have to bump everything individually. Once I put it in there, then it just automatically redoes it. So that has been my biggest thing.
I kind of jumped in here late. So you asked if it was calendar or school year. Does it shut off at some point? like, have you pushed it to where
I haven't, because
it keeps
he's
going?
usually always been done before what we've needed,
If it's
so.
like a subscription, like you buy it today and a year
Yeah.
from now, it's like, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know we ran into that with Alex once and it just, I mean, we had like 3% left or something, and it was a 12-month thing and. Kind of figured this.
See, BJU gives you 13 months.
Oh. Handy.
Yeah. Some of us are a little slower than others.
Well, see, and when we found that out with Alex, they just automatically redid our subscription and we kept the same login and kept all of our same stuff.
Oh, they
Oh,
renewed
yeah.
it.
Mhm,
Yeah.
when they renewed it, because Tim was always my one that would finish a math year halfway through the year. And then I would only let him go half a year ahead for the next year. So like in
Yeah.
third, fourth grade, he would work, the half year, and I should have just let him go.
Just keep going.
But I was so worried of him getting too far ahead of himself, which he wouldn't have been an issue. Alex has been great for anybody that's got dyslexia. Because that is what got us on Alex, is my daughter has severe dyslexia. And we spent more time in tears trying to teach Saxon math in third grade and trying to teach flashcards that she will never be able to do.
I think
That-
math leaves everyone to tears.
We put her in Alex and she was able to do from January, all of third grade and half of fourth grade.
Nice.
Just
Why
from-
is it better for students with dyslexia? I don't know.
Just the way they teach it, and with it being on a computer system, whatever it was, it clicked and it didn't jumble things for her.
Okay. The way it was organized. and
Yep.
presented. Okay.
She loved it, and we kept her in that, and then that's what I put Tim in. And he's the one that's ran with it, most of it. Like I said, he's went as far as Alex will let him go, and that's pre-calculus. And finished it before the school year was done. So, and he does it in his head. He does not write it down.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
He either does it on his notepad, it will just put answers
That's what
to
my kid does.
whichever parts of the equation he's in, but that's how he gets through Alex math. And the college that he was just accepted to is one of the top aeronautical colleges in the US. And their acceptance placement test for math is Alex. So he scored well. He was very happy when he found out that it was Alex that he got to do for the placement test, but yeah, he's like the Monarch because he knows it. It's interactive. Like I said, there's Becky, you missed it, but for vocabulary, there's arcade games for learning and practicing your vocabulary,
Engagement, yeah.
which just, it's a break from reading and just answering questions,
Yeah.
I don't know how many of them he's ever played.
Right.
I know in the younger grades, they had other games that were interactive or videos and stuff that they did. That the kids enjoyed, watching and just something other than reading.
Yeah.
I think Kiana, because of the dyslexia, used the text to speech on her computer to have it read some of it to her, because that's what would get her. Textbooks drove her nuts. Because of all the heavy reading, she had the hardest time. So if it could be on a computer and it could read to her, then she did better. And I think this had where it could be read to you, option in there. So.
Well, flexibility is very, very awesome, just because even different kids in the same family learn differently.
Yes.
So, whatever works best. Yeah. Hoping you guys are recording all of these awesome curriculum options for
Yes,
parents.
I have it on Zoom and you're being recorded right now. Oh, sorry, just hold it there. You're all set yet. Yes.
I would for like future, like the spreadsheet, the curriculum spreadsheet for upstream.
Mhm.
It's a little
Overwhelming.
outdated.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
And not alphabetical and not
Yeah.
sortable.
That was one of my goals when I started, but it's just a big job. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll get these awesome ladies involved and,
Mhm.
if parents can help fill that out.
Yeah.
make it more
Yeah,
beautiful
that's a
for
good idea.
families, that is,
Mhm.
yeah,
I
was
just
my
need to-
one
I-
desire.
Yeah, for me, the hardest part, because that was my goal too, when I came, it's like, okay, what? And you know, how do I show all this in an organized way? And I'm like, I'm trying to find those categories that I can put things in.
Yeah.
You know, okay, like there's a lot of like the Monarch style, that is, you know, K through 12, 6 to, you know, all that. Once I get that figured out, then.
And they change too, I suspect, like something like Monarch, it probably didn't start so robust and all sorts. of things.
The first stuff that they started out with the life packs. And that's, workbook based. Same basic curriculum, but it's in a workbook, and we've used that. It's basically 10 workbooks per subject. So you could just pick the workbook. We were traveling a lot at that time. We'd spend 4 days in Anchorage, 3 days back at home. So my daughter at the time could pick whichever workbook she was in and just take that with her. No textbooks, nothing. It was all contained in the workbook. And that one, we even did home ec in that one. They had a whole home ec curriculum that she worked on at that time. That had everything from the cooking to the sewing. I mean, it was a full home ec class like I remember taking in junior high. And then we did switched on Schoolhouse, which is the same thing as the Monarch, but the flash drive. So you just plug it in. It's the same setup. It's just, you do not have to have the internet. And we've done that one. And then now we are just with our internet out here, we don't have to worry about any of that. So it's just as easy to have him online, and I don't have to worry about what he does online. So that's not a concern of mine. But yeah, I've used all three of their stuff at different times for whichever reason. And we did look back at doing like the life packs for Yana at one point in time, and she is not a workbook kid. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work. So, we have definitely had 3 different children with learning styles that are very, very different. So.
I have heard if you do a switch on Schoolhouse with the thumb drives, don't just buy any used one, gotta make sure that the operating system works with your computer.
Yes.
People sell their old ones for a good price, and then people get them with their brand new computers and they don't work.
Yes.
So, just a good thing to know.
Buy a program on a DVD that your
Uh-huh.
computer doesn't.
Everyone's like, it's fun, right? It's work.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, no, and if you
Yeah.
get a used DVD, because they do still sell them in DVD or the CDs, DVD, whatever, you have to make sure you have the installation disc.
Oh,
Because I have had that happen where I bought a used one. But you have to make sure you have the installation disc. And as long as you have the right installation disc, you can still put it on a computer and use it. Because we did that for something. I can't remember which subject, but we did do that. So yeah, that is something to watch. I usually look at Christian book distributors first on a lot of this, because one, they have great samples of looking through exactly what the curriculum is going to look like, especially if it's a workbook. You can usually look through, take a peek inside, and you can see exactly what kind of workbook it's going to be. The manufacturers don't always do that. Sometimes they will let you download a sample, sometimes they will not. That's why I wanted to make sure I came in early to make sure we could access my side of them stuff so that I could show you the setup, because that's one thing I have really liked. The other one, if guys are piecing your equipment together, there is a subscription planner called Homeschool Planet that you get your part of it, but the kid gets their part of the lesson planner too, and you can assign all their stuff and what they need to do. And it's basically similar to what the Monarch planner is for their stuff, but you have to enter everything, and you can do multiple kids at the same time, same subjects and all that. And I've used that over the years too. It's last time I think I paid for it, it was like $70 for the year. But it is very, very handy. And it's just the one subscription, and you can put as many people on it as you want. You can put mom, you can put dad, you can put however many kids, and totally set their own schedules. And you can put all, we kept track of